The storm moved away from Hawaii on Sunday, but the danger did not. The town of Naalehu on the south side of the Big Island has now been without a way out for 3 days. Highway 11 is cut on both sides of it. On the high-low side, it is closed between mile markers 56.5 and 62. On the Kona side, between mile markers 71 and 76. Utility lines are lying across the roadway. In neighboring Pahala, there is no electricity, no running water, and no sewer service. Cow Hospital and Rural Health Clinic are running on backup power. State Representative Jean Capella represents exactly these communities. She says there is no electricity, no Wi-Fi, and no communication into or out of Naalehu. Some people, in her words, are essentially stranded. Other places were cut off as well. South Point Road is closed, and the Green Sands Beach subdivision is isolated. The families taken to the Cow District shelter spent 3 nights there. Monday's partial road opening was their first chance to leave. To understand what a cut-off town means on an island, one thing has to be said. There is no other road to take. Highway 11 runs as a ring around the Big Island, and on the south side it has no parallel route. When a section disappears, the detour covers half the island, and that means hours. At the peak, 250,900 customers across the state were without power. That is the largest outage in Hawaii's modern history, roughly 1 in every 4 tracked accounts. Now, the numbers as they stand today. According to Hawaiian Electric on Monday evening, about 88,670 customers statewide were still without power. Since the storm began, the company has restored electricity to 162,230. Here is the breakdown by island. On the Big Island, about 38,250 customers are out. Those are the Puna, North and South Kona, North and South Kahala, Hamakua, and South Hilo areas. On Oahu, about 14,350 are out across the windward and leeward sides and in Honolulu itself. On Maui, about 1,450 in the Kula, Haiku, Olinda, and Piholo areas. On Kauai, the Island Utility Cooperative reported 207 customers affected by 59 active outages. Now the roads. Access between Pahala and Hilo in the Hilo direction is open to 4-wheel drive vehicles for emergency services and essential travel only. County police designated the bridge repairs on Highway 11 between mile markers 49 and 52 as first responder use only. Now the closures. On Tuesday, all state and county offices on the Big Island are closed, along with all public schools and all courts. County beaches and parks are closed as well. Oahu, Maui County, and Kauai County reopened the same day and are operating normally. 25 teams are continuing damage assessments in the Kohala, Upper Puna, Honokaa, and South Kona areas. Line inspections by 3 helicopters were completed Monday. About 100 workers from the mainland arrive on August 18th and will begin work Wednesday. There is a troubling detail inside these numbers. Over the second half of Monday, Governor Josh Green announced at a Monday news conference that the body of a 90-year-old woman had been found. In his words, she perished in the flood. The woman had been reported missing in a neighborhood on the south side of the Big Island. Several agencies joined the search, including the National Guard. During the flash flooding, some residents swam for their lives. Firefighters carried an elderly woman to safety on their arms. Another resident was rescued alive. Hawaii County Fire Chief Daniel Volpe said she was found Sunday morning about 100 yards from her own home. The storm surge pinned her against her vehicle and then swept away both the woman and the car. She was taken to a hospital with moderate injuries and was alert and conscious. Volpe also confirmed that 2 homes in Naalehu were swept off their foundations on Saturday night. The governor estimates that more than 100 homes on the south side of the Big Island were destroyed or damaged. An exact figure will come once assessors can reach every cutoff area. It is worth saying what did not happen. The fatal traffic collision that occurred Saturday afternoon in Hawaiian Ocean View was reviewed separately. The county concluded it was not connected to the storm. If you are watching this from Kau or you have family there, subscribe to the channel. We will bring updates every day until these communities are reconnected to the rest of the island. Let's go through what actually happened to the road because everything else follows from it. On Saturday night, floodwater burst through a gulch at Powwow Stream. The surge took out a section of Highway 11, the only road into and out of Pahala. The Hawaii Department of Transportation stated exactly where Mamalahoa Highway, also known as Route 11, is washed out. The damage is between mile markers 49.3 and 49.4. A section of roadway is simply gone. The bridge structure itself is intact. After his Sunday flyover, Mayor Kimo Alameda said at least 6 bridges were destroyed or heavily damaged. By Monday, that assessment had improved. After a closer look on the ground, officials reported the bridges themselves were found to be intact. North of Pahala, near the Pikeya Bridge, crews are clearing enormous fallen trees off the highway. Along the stretch from Mountain View to Volcano, downed power lines are lying across the road. Cal Hospital sits on the far side of that break. The only road and the only hospital on the south coast ended up on opposite sides of the washout. The hospital is running on backup generators, and its clinic has been closed. Staff expect a rise in patients once the adrenaline of the event wears off. People will come in for medication refills and for treatment of storm-related illness. Governor Green said the hospital building itself looks good and mainly needs its permanent power back. Transportation crews are working to build easier access to it. Mayor Alameda called that the most critical circumstance of Monday. The county made restoring vehicle access to Pahala its first priority precisely because of the hospital. A landslide, for anyone who has not dealt with one, is water-soaked ground sliding down a slope. When the earth can no longer hold the water, the hillside starts moving and carries away everything on it. That is how this section of road disappeared. It did not erode gradually, it went down with the slope. Now the weather, because there are 2 pieces of news here and they point in opposite directions. The first is good. The National Weather Service in Honolulu expects moderate trade winds from Monday through the end of the work week. The first half of the week stays relatively dry, with a return to the normal seasonal shower pattern. No new heavy rain is heading for the islands. The second is not. The danger has moved from the sky into the ground. Local officials estimate the landslide threat will persist for 24 to 48 hours, especially on steep terrain. The reason is that the soil is completely saturated. Governor Green said specifically that emergency workers are worried about landslides. This is not a hypothetical. The Weather Service in Honolulu logged a large landslide that has blocked all access to the summit of Mauna Kea. The summit road and the Humula Trail are closed, and the summit itself remains without power. 15 to 35 inches of rain fell on the Big Island in 24 hours. Saturated ground keeps the flooding threat elevated even with no new rain. On Maui, floodwater blocked the Hana Highway between Kipahulu and Hana. In Haleakala National Park, the Weather Service logged major facility damage in the Summit District. Brown water advisories remain in effect across the island chain. Those go out when storm runoff carries mud and sewage into the ocean. They are lifted after water samples are analyzed, not on a schedule. Lala itself has moved west of the main islands and continues toward the northwestern part of the chain. The Hurricane Center discussion issued at 5 o'clock Monday evening says the storm is strengthening again, convection is organizing, and the core is well defined. The forecast peak has been raised to roughly 90 miles per hour, meaning Lala could become a hurricane again Tuesday or Wednesday. It no longer threatens the main islands. There is one detail that says more about the force of that water than any number. Mayor Alameda reported that the flood brought a casket to the surface. It happened either in Naalehu or in Pahala, and the exact location is being determined. The county is working out which cemetery it came from, so the burial can be restored. At the same time, officials are checking whether other burial sites were affected. The cemetery in Naalehu sits close to the channel the water took. Many families in Kau have lived here for generations, and their relatives are buried in that ground. For local people, this is not simply a damaged site. Water moved through these towns with enough force to tear houses off their foundations and open graves. The mayor described his flyover this way. This storm was especially critical for the south side. The flash floods were stronger than ever, and they were like nothing he had seen. In Naalehu, the Punalu Bake Shop has been destroyed. For anyone who has not been to Hawaii, this is a well-known place. People drive out of their way for the Hawaiian sweetbread, and it is one of the largest employers in the district. General Manager Zachary Kennedy said water ran through the production facility and through the retail store. It left behind about 3 feet of mud. His words, "This is a different level of damage. It is literally catastrophic." According to television reporting, walls were torn open and the ovens are ruined. The building is considered a total loss. Rebuilding, Kennedy says, will take years. On August 17th, the bakery posted an official statement on its website. The online store is suspended and all pending orders have been refunded. Kennedy writes that communication is difficult because much of the island has neither power nor internet. Then he says something worth quoting in full. Buildings can be rebuilt. Roads can be repaved. Trees can be planted again. The most precious thing is human life. He adds that most of the bakery's employees and their families are safe and healthy. The bakery is still assessing the damage properly, and he closes this way: "We will be back. We will be stronger." In that same town of Naalehu, the Naalehu restaurant was damaged, a longtime place known for its comfort food and its pies. For a town the size of Naalehu, losing two places like that means more than ruined buildings. It means jobs, which are scarce in Kau to begin with. It also means the flow of visitors who used to stop here on the drive around the island. Representative John Capella said the destruction in Kau is beyond words. In her account, beyond the power, phone, and internet outages, her communities are focused on one thing right now. The roads have to open so information and resources can come in and people can get out. Clearing the roads also gives utility workers access. Christine Insera lives in Waiohinu, just south of Naalehu. She described 4-foot trenches in her yard where trees were uprooted. There is no cell service. She tried to drive into Naalehu to check on friends, but was turned back by county workers at Kahuku Park on Highway 11. Big Island resident Luke Green started a fundraiser for his two mothers. Carol Parrish works as a chef, Beth Fuller as a gardener. They lost a 3-bedroom home in Kapau in North Pahala. By her son's estimate, winds around 60 miles per hour took the roof off. His phrasing, "The roof peeled off like an old sardine can." After that, the rain destroyed everything inside, the ceiling caved in, and the truss came down. The two women had been about to open a bake stand and a garden shop. On Monday, Governor Green. Let's go through what actually happened to the road because everything else follows from it. On Saturday night, floodwater burst through a gulch at Powwow Stream. The surge took out a section of Highway 11, the only road into and out of Pahala. The Hawaii Department of Transportation stated exactly where Mamalahoa Highway, also known as Route 11, is washed out. The damage is between mile markers 49.3 and 49.4. A section of roadway is simply gone. The bridge structure itself is intact. After his Sunday flyover, Mayor Kimo Alameda said at least 6 bridges were destroyed or heavily damaged. By Monday, that assessment had improved. After a closer look on the ground, officials reported the bridges themselves were found to be intact. North of Pahala, near the Pikea Bridge, crews are clearing enormous fallen trees off the highway. Along the stretch from Mountain View to Volcano, downed power lines are lying across the road. Kau Hospital sits on the far side of that break. The only road and the only hospital on the south coast ended up on opposite sides of the washout. The hospital is running on backup generators, and its clinic has been closed. Staff expect a rise in patients once the adrenaline of the event wears off. People will come in for medication refills and for treatment of storm-related illness. Governor Green said the hospital building itself looks good and mainly needs its permanent power back. Transportation crews are working to build easier access to it. Mayor Alameda called that the most critical circumstance of Monday. The county made restoring vehicle access to Pahala its first priority precisely because of the hospital. A landslide, for anyone who has not dealt with one, is water-soaked ground sliding down a slope. When the earth can no longer hold the water, the hillside starts moving and carries away everything on it. That is how this section of road disappeared. It did not erode gradually, it went down with the slope. Back to electricity. But now to the question of why this is taking so long. At the peak, 250,900 customers were without power. That is roughly 1 in every 4 tracked accounts in the state, and the largest outage in Hawaii's modern history. A company spokesperson told a local news outlet on Sunday that about 25 transmission lines were knocked out across the Big Island and Oahu. Those are the state's 2 most populated islands. The company has since declined to say how many lines remain out of service. Transmission is the backbone, so nothing downstream comes back until those lines do. The utility is warning people plainly. In the hardest-hit rural areas of the Big Island, customers should prepare for outages lasting weeks or even months. The reason is geography. The main transmission lines run through the mountains. Parts of that route cannot be reached by equipment, and crews hike in to the poles on foot. Inspections are being flown by helicopter and drone because there is no other way to reach those sections. A second problem was added on top. 4 independent power producers on the Big Island disconnected from the grid because of damage. Because of that, the company warned about the possibility of forced load shedding. On Oahu, inspections found significant damage to poles across the island. Customers were asked to conserve electricity overnight. Mayor Alameda's particular worry is not the darkness itself, but what follows it. He means people who depend on oxygen concentrators and home medical equipment. He also reported that the island's wastewater system was running on backup power. 3 main transmission lines on the Big Island have already been repaired. Hawaiian Electric belongs to the Western Region Mutual Assistance Group, which includes 62 utilities. That is where the roughly 100 workers are coming from. Now, what is already working for people? 9 water and device charging sites are open across the Big Island. Distribution runs daily. In upcountry Maui, the County Emergency Management Agency and the Red Cross have opened a charging station with Wi-Fi. Representative Pahala and her team are working with the Vibrant Hawaii Resource Hubs. They are also working with the Hawaii Alliance of Nonprofit Organizations to coordinate relief. On Kauai, the county is accepting damage reports from residents through its portal. Private fundraisers are running separately. Luke Green, who we mentioned, started one for his mothers. Campaigns like his are appearing by the dozen, and that is a direct result of what I will say next. Now the schools. Naalehu Elementary is closed until at least Thursday. Kau High School and Pahala Elementary could stay closed longer, as officials continue assessing campus conditions and access roads. On Friday, schools statewide are closed for Statehood Day. And here is the part about money. The Hawaii Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs points out that a standard homeowners policy covers neither flood nor hurricane damage. For people who lost a house, that can mean no payout at all. For anyone directly affected, there are things to get done today. Start with the generator. It runs outdoors only, never in a garage, and never under an overhang next to the house. The exhaust carries carbon monoxide, it has no smell, and a person loses consciousness before understanding what is happening. Now, food in a refrigerator with no power. A closed door holds the cold for about 4 hours. A full freezer holds for about 2 days. If you are unsure about an item, throw it out rather than taste it. Now, the water. Brown water advisories are in effect across the chain. Nobody should go into the ocean even where the sun is out and the surf has settled. Now on damage claims. Photograph everything before you start hauling things out. Shoot from 2 angles, a wide view of the room and a close view of the damage. And check your own policy for separate flood coverage. Now the roads. The Weather Service and local officials are asking people not to cross residual floodwater. They also ask people not to drive out to look at the damage in affected towns. Every extra vehicle gets in the crew's way. And the slopes. The landslide threat holds for another day or 2. If your house sits below a steep slope, watch for new cracks in the ground. And for water running where it never ran before. One more thing. If water was in your house and has gone down, do not switch everything back on at once. An electrical panel, a furnace, or a water heater that sat in water needs to be checked by a professional. Check on elderly neighbors, especially anyone living alone and anyone with medical equipment that plugs into the wall. Here is the day in short. Naalehu has been without a way out for 3 days. Highway 11 is cut on both sides, and utility lines are lying across the roadway. Pahala has no power, no water, and no sewer, and its hospital is running on backup. About 88,670 customers statewide are still without electricity. In rural parts of the Big Island, power could take months. The body of a 90-year-old woman who perished in the flood has been found. No more heavy rain is coming, but the landslide threat holds another day or 2. Today in Kau, people will be sorting through what is left with the road closed and no phone service. About 100 utility workers from the mainland arrive on the island and go out on the lines Wednesday. 25 teams are continuing assessments. What is happening in Kau is fundamentally different from the rest of the state. On Oahu, Maui, and Kauai, the offices reopened. Children went back to school, and power is coming back block by block. In Kau, people have not been able to leave or make a phone call for 3 days. Thank you to the crews who worked in the dark on the cut roads of the Kau district overnight into Sunday. To County Civil Defense, the Fire Department, the police, the National Guard, and the Coast Guard. The woman found 100 yards from her own home is alive because of them. And a particular thank you for those words from the bakery in Naalehu, which are worth repeating. Buildings can be rebuilt, roads can be repaved, trees can be planted again. The most precious thing is human life. For current warnings, go to the Weather Service site. For road conditions, go to the Hawaii Department of Transportation. Damage reports are handled by the county emergency management agencies. If your life is in immediate danger, call 911. We will be back tomorrow morning with new numbers. Take care of yourselves.